Let me welcome you all to session number 3 of development economics. And so now today we have another interesting topic. So now I did a kind of sequential arrangement for the order of topics, because now last week we discussed about, you all know about this the system theory and even dependency theory. Then we had a nice discussion following up some research outcomes and so on. And now what I thought of today to follow up that essence and to discuss further about this heterodox perspective of development and economics and so on so on. That's why I chose this topic as third topic, which is living in the end times, right? And it says when the system challenges growth and development. Now, so when it comes to this topic, as I said, so we'll have another important discourse to discuss. So then how some theorists or some ideologies, some concepts, some arguments define or even understand the process of development and how they argue on development process or whatever things happening in usual circumstances, right? Now, so let me start with few things that we almost familiar with, which is the first, economic crisis. Now, when it comes to economic crisis, nowadays we all experiencing that, and we'll say rather experiencing, we all suffering from that, right? So it's a hard time for all of us, tough time for all of us. Anyhow, now, so we had some discussions about economic crisis now, especially with your third year batch when it's come to applied industrial economics. Now, with you all, even I discussed about Sri Lankan economy in applied industrial economics last year, but we didn't discuss seriously about economic crisis as we didn't have that time. But we discussed about some potential of finding crisis last time also, even with you. Now, when it comes to economic crisis, even we have different types of crisis now. And even it's not only about Sri Lankan economic crisis now. So we have, or we know there was different versions of economic crisis throughout history, right? So first I will start with another economic crisis which has happened before, which we call Venezuelan crisis. So then it's about what happened to Venezuela. Okay, so then we'll go through the Venezuelan version of economic crisis. So I'm going through with this version because of a purpose, so we'll see, right? So first, now what I will do, I will play a video about this Venezuelan version of economic crisis, and following that, we'll start our discussion. Okay, so then first let's watch this video.
Todos estos meses, todo el tiempo de marcha por mi familia, por la comida, por el pueblo.
Siempre voy a estar en las calles luchando por la libertad de mis hijos. Y bueno.
La violencia del gobierno y la violencia del AMPA. Todo eso son razones para tú salir a protestar, a manifestar, a defender tus derechos y aspirar a una mejor Venezuela.
Venezuela was once the richest country in Latin America. It has the largest known oil reserves in the world, and its democratic government was once praised worldwide. But today, Venezuela's democratic institutions and its economy are in shambles. The country has the highest inflation rate in the world, making food and medicine inaccessible to most Venezuelans. Over the last 4 years, its GDP has fallen 35%, which is a sharper drop than the one seen during the Great Depression in the US. And the country's murder rate has surpassed that of the most dangerous cities in the world. These conditions have sparked months of protests against the president, Nicolas Maduro, and it's easy to see why. The country has become measurably worse since his election in 2013. A poll showed that about 80% of Venezuelans want Maduro removed from office. But instead, the opposite has happened. Maduro has consolidated his power, bringing the country closer to authoritarian rule. Maduro's political ambition became evident in December 2015. 2 years after he became president, a coalition of opposition parties called the Democratic Unity Roundtable, or MUD, won a 2/3 majority in the National Assembly, putting Maduro's rule at risk. In response, Maduro quickly forced out several Supreme Court justices and filled the positions with cronies loyal to him. In March 2016, the court ruled to strip the opposition-led National Assembly of its powers, a move that sparked massive protests across the country. The ruling was reversed a few days later, but the damage was done. Protests continued to grow and have left about 100 dead and thousands injured so far. Despite the violence and public outcry, Maduro held a vote in July to elect a new governing body called the National Constituent Assembly, which would have the power to rewrite Venezuela's constitution and essentially replace the National Assembly, and leave virtually no opposition to Maduro's rule.
¿Por qué está saliendo a votar hoy?
Bueno, por el bienestar del país.
¿Qué está buscando en esta nueva Asamblea Nacional Constituyente?
Bueno, una paz para todo.
With Maduro's recent vote, Venezuelans didn't have a say in whether the assembly should exist. They only had the option to elect its members. But when Maduro's predecessor, Hugo Chavez, proposed a constitutional rewrite in 1999, he first called for a referendum to propose the election of the assembly. After most Venezuelans voted yes, they then elected a new National Constituent Assembly. See, unlike Maduro, Chavez was a charismatic and beloved leader. In the 90s, he burst onto television sets across the country. He blamed government corruption and Venezuela's elite for the economic inequality. His populist message resonated with the country's poor, who eventually helped bring him to power. The key moment in his presidency came in 2004 when oil prices surged. Venezuela's petroleum-dependent economy started booming, and Chavez went on to spend billions from the profits on social welfare programs for the poor. He subsidized food, improved the educational system, built an enviable healthcare system, and reduced poverty by more than half. These programs certainly helped the poor, but they served a purpose for Chavez as well. In order to be re-elected, he needed to keep these millions of poor Venezuelans happy, so he rigged the economy to do just that. He didn't scale back Venezuela's dependence on oil, and his unrestrained spending led to a growing deficit, which meant all these programs would be impossible to sustain if oil prices fell. After Chavez's death, when Maduro took office as his handpicked successor, that's exactly what happened. Oil prices plummeted in 2014, and Maduro failed to adjust. Hyperinflation has made medicines and food that were once subsidized unaffordable for Venezuelans poor, who now make up about 82% of the population. Like Chavez, Maduro has also rigged the economy to keep himself in power, but this time it's not benefiting the poor. He's exploited a complex currency system put in place by Chavez. Maduro set the official exchange rate at 10 bolívares per US dollar, but only his friends and allies have access to this rate. In reality, the Venezuelan currency has become basically worthless. Most Venezuelans get their dollars on the black market, where the rate is about 12,000 bolívares per dollar. The military, which got complete control of the food supply from Maduro in 2016, is reportedly profiting off this currency crisis. They import food at Maduro's special currency rate and sell it on the black market for a massive profit. So for military generals and political allies of Maduro, the crisis has offered a lucrative opportunity which has helped Maduro stay in power. But he can't rely on that support alone. Which brings us back to Maduro's recent power grab. The opposition boycotted the vote, but Maduro held the vote for a new constitutional assembly anyway, and won a majority.
Protests on the streets of Venezuela turning deadly after President Nicolas Maduro declares victory.
The violence on Sunday, very real. The bomb went off near some motorcycle police, wounding several.
Election day clashes between protesters and police claiming at least 10 more lives.
At least one candidate has been murdered, shot to death.
La elección de la Asamblea Nacional Constituyente es un fraude abierto, el mundo lo ve, lo ha visto, está claro, todos están claros de lo que sucedió. Ahora, lo que hay que seguir es seguir buscando la libertad, porque nosotros vivimos en libertad y sabemos lo que es eso. Para allá vamos a ir.
Lo que sucedió ayer fue el más grande fraude que se haya cometido en cualquier elección nacional. Era un fraude cantado, ya se sabía que iba a ser una elección con poca asistencia, pero con una gran participación forjada por el gobierno.
Maduro's government is trying to create the illusion of public support. The government claimed about 8 million people, or 40% of the country, voted, but experts put that number much lower, at just 3 million people. The international community, including Peru, Canada, Spain, Mexico, and Argentina, condemned the election. The US imposed financial sanctions on Maduro and members of his government. But Maduro's assembly, filled with loyalists, convened anyway, and it swiftly removed Attorney General Luis Ortega, leader of the opposition. Armed groups reportedly arrested several other opposition leaders too. Whether the group will rewrite the constitution or postpone the next presidential election remains to be seen. For now, Maduro has unprecedented power over a country that continues to spiral out of control.
Esto está cada día peor, mi querido. Si este hombre no se va, aquí Venezuela, bueno, ya. Una guerra. Mira, una guerra aquí. Aquí lo que hay es guerra, una guerra.
Okay. So now, hope you all heard the voices of this video as well. Then now what do you think? Now you all now know a bit about Sri Lankan problem going on. However, now you see the Venezuelan case, right? So even we can see a lot of similar things happen at the end of the Venezuelan case as well. However, the history or whatever the reason behind the problem has some differences once we compare Sri Lankan version. Now I will say it in this way. Now Venezuela is a country, rather is, now we have to say was, I will see. It was a country which was, relatively wealthy in terms of fuel stocks, because it's a one of country who got the highest fuel reserves in America, right? So then they got this advantage. So they are one of countries who got highest fuel reserves in American region. And then so you see now, if they have fuel reserve, petroleum power, it means that's a huge power if you think of the global context, right? And now, so even now what happened here was now earlier when there was this Hugo Chavez, the former leader of this country, he was kind of person who was popular at the initial stage, and then who said like the person needs to help poor people, and then it's kind of end of poverty jargon which he used. And then what he did then, the same time, luckily for this Chavez, the fuel prices was rise up. So then the improvements in fuel price is good for this country because they are fuel exporters, right? And then Chavez used this profits to be popular further, so he spent his money to poor and did different versions of welfare activities. However, they didn't manage things. They got money and then they spend it to be popular. And then later, we have this Nicolas Maduro, who came into this position, who was the leader. And then he was another character who even thought of doing the same phenomenon. I mean, even he thought of, so we have enough fuel stocks, so we have enough reserves, so then we can use this advantage to be popular or to stay cool, to get a lot of profits and to stay wealthy. So then even he thought there will be no problem. And then he did some manipulations in the system as well, like one example would be exchange rate, because of mismanagement in this country. So later they experienced that their exchange rates were like increasing, I mean depreciating, especially their currency. And then so what Maduro did, he used two levels of exchange rate systems. One is so their currency is Bolivian. So it's like 10 Bolivias to $1 kind of rate was there. So which is a kind of elite rate where everyone cannot use that. A particular class, including Maduro and his friends and family, can use this particular option. And then the next is about the usual rate, which was like increasing rapidly. And now what these people doing, this elite class doing is, they they purchase dollars using the previous rate, 10 Bolivians to $1 kind of, and then they sell these dollars in the market for very high rate, and they are getting profits. So then they thought this is a very good business for them, and then they never thought of the betterment of the country or what will happen to country. However, now if we think of the repercussions, so for example, now if you visit Venezuela and if you drink 1 cup of coffee, right? So before this incident happened, for 1 cup of coffee, you have to pay around 400 Bolivia. But now, for the same cup of coffee, you have to pay around 1 million or more than 1 million of Bolivians. So see how the value of money declined in this country. And then that's about inflation, right? So they had hyperinflation, and they were like in a serious, still they're suffering, right? Now you see, now even within that there was a lot of political jargon, political, this misbehaves, election frauds and all as well. Altogether, there were a lot of problems, and then the country was end up like catastrophic, right? And now, so when it comes to Sri Lankan version, I think now we all experience it, right? So still we all experiencing it, and then now when it comes to Sri Lankan version, even we could see some of these features, but now anyhow the benchmark or the initial reasons were maybe a bit different, but anyhow even Sri Lankan version also going through the same tunnel at the end, right? So then even our future may be still a big problem, right? Now we know what's happening. Still our exchange rate, so our currency depreciates, inflation increases. So the growth rate of inflation, which is improving always. So then, so now we all experience this problem. We know what is happening to our consumption power, simply to our purchasing power parity. Now, so when it's called development, as we discussed earlier, so development is not only about economic betterment, but now even just economic betterment also not there. So then what else we can think of? So can we think of social betterment? Can we think of other livelihoods and their well-being, whatever? So that's the situation we are in right now. Even now, when it's called Sri Lankan version, so if you could remember applied industrial economics, we discussed different different topics of the problems we are having in Sri Lanka, right? And now when it comes to Sri Lankan crisis, so first we can ask these two questions. Okay, so what is this crisis and when this crisis happened? Now basically when it comes to these questions, so we all directly focus this as the problem. What is that? The shortage of foreign exchange, right? So this shortage of foreign exchange led us to experience this exchange depreciation and inflation and everything happened intertwined with this foreign exchange shortage. That is what we like to see, or we think of. Anyhow, now if we think of a deep analysis into this problem, this is not really because of this particular matter. This was a prolonged issue. This problem got a history, right? So this crisis we are experiencing now was because, or still is happening, or still is because our wrong, say, policy preparation, judgments, decisions, and even implementations all over long period of time. So this was happened over more than 70 years, since 1948, right? So since 1948, what we did, so what was the correct policy implemented in Sri Lankan context? So that's a good question, right? Anyhow, now the thing is we all are in a crisis, right? And then once we ask why, so we may have a lot of reasons. Now, as I said, this is not just because of kind of short-term matter. This is a long-term problem, right? It's a long-term problem. Now, for example, see this data. Now, even in applied industrial economics, we used to use this comparison, but I think we did it up to only up to 2014 that time. But now here I update that up to 2020, right? So here we compare trade and gross domestic production of our country, and simply what you can see here. So this purple color line, which is GDP, and you could see this orange color line, which is the trade volume. So we know trade volume means the combined value of both exports and imports. So this is not trade gap, right? Even you can see in that blue, light blue color, the trade gap, trade balance, and which is a negative, right? And now here this trade volume will give us the total value of all trade happen in and out. It's about total value of all imports and exports. So now once we go through this trade volume and GDP, as we discussed even in our capital industry economics, what we see that the widening gap between these two factors, right? These two measurements. So GDP increases in a rapid phase. However, the trade volume not increase in rapid phase, and then there is a widening gap between these two. Now this gap, of course, says a lot, right? Now this raise few questions. What are these questions? Now one question is, as we even maybe you can remember, right? One question is, so then how GDP increases? So then usually for a country, especially for developing country, so we'll expect to see economic or improvements in production parallel to the improvements in our trade, right? However, now here what we can see is the GDP growth which happen in effect out of the trade. So GDP not depends on trade. So in Sri Lanka, that's what we can see. That's a signal we can see with these figures. And then what kind of factors then push GDP like this? So then, for example, you might think of the structural imbalance we have in Sri Lanka, right? So see this sector share. So we have high concentration towards services, not towards agriculture and industry. Even earlier it was agriculture where we thought that as the key area in industry, but now it's of course not. You can see it's as a share, it's very low. And then the manufacturing sector even not showing us a clear performance. That it was like, oh, it's still like at the same stage, it's stagnated. And the service sector, which was even earlier, tried to show the performances, and now even the service sector dominates the Sri Lankan economy. Even see employment, right? Service sector dominates. And now this will be one factor, because we know service sector usually a facilitator. Services means facilitator. So this facilitator, once the facilitator dominates the economy, so then we have a question about production, performance in production within the country, right? And that's one. And even the next thing about external debt we obtain. So we have, like, now we discuss now why we as a country we are in default situation now. Why we cannot? So we are a country with inability to pay debt now, right? To repay debt now. And now for example, as an average, we are a country whose debt repayment, debt burden, I mean, now, so once we get a loan from a bank, so then we have to pay it as a premium. So then we have a repayment, monthly repayment. Now what is happening in Sri Lanka is, now you are getting a loan from the bank, but now you cannot repay it back because your salary is lower than your loan. The similar thing happening to Sri Lanka context. So even Sri Lanka cannot repay this in average, because our government revenue is lower than, or which is mostly similar to the debt repayment ratio, right? So then that says us. So then if we repay the whole loan repayment, so then So how we pay the salaries of our people? So how we do welfare, whatever we think of? Then that's the key problem. That's one of problem we are having, right? And then these kind of things will lead into different problems, right? Of course, these are the things that led us into this problem. And then because of this debt issue, anyhow, we are in a serious problem. However, now the thing was, because of the debt, because of this external debt we obtained from countries earlier, we kind of observe a significant boost in GDP, right? So we got money from someone else, and then we pump into the economy. So then GDP increased, but not because of trade, right? So that's another factor. So likewise, such unhealthy economic factors or economic movements or decision making processes finally led us into this crisis, right? Now the situation is like this. So still, as a country, when it comes to industry, we are producing textiles and low-tech goods. So we are not even thinking of moving ahead, either even to develop, to produce a memory chip at least, right? So then even how we could think of in advanced productions. So now this is the problem. So then we have a problem with this FDI, foreign direct investment as well. So we discussed them in detail. So then so when it's come to FDI, we are more towards horizontal FDIs rather vertical FDIs. But as a country now, we need vertical FDIs, right? And even so we didn't focus a lot into global value chain, but the countries like Sri Lanka, the small countries, for example, Taiwan, the Asian Tigers, so how they succeed? So they nicely engage in this global value chain, and then they got advantage, but we did it properly. So then anyhow, this all finally led us towards problems. And even same time, now if we think of our literacies, now we say as a in South Asia, we are having the highest print literacy and so on. Yeah, we'll say it's 92%, but one of very important literacy, financial literacy, so we are only 35%. Right, so when it comes to financial literacy, we are only 35%. Print literacy will be 92%. But so we are not identifying these gaps, these problems, right? So even then we have a problem with the education system as well, maybe, right? So likewise, this combined issues and even the political issues, where the leadership problems and even their greediness or whatever their focuses. So they all together finally end up with the crisis we are in now. Okay, so then now with this all, my interest today to lead you towards a specific perspective of looking into such problems and the development and growth. That's the heterodox perspective, right? Now, when it's come to heterodox perspective, so we can say this is this term in another way. Heterodox means non-orthodox perspective. So what means orthodox? Orthodox means popular perspective or mainstream ideology. Mainstream ideology. So now when it's called economics, for example, mainstream ideology is the classical theories we are going to learn soon by next week onwards, right? For example, modernization theories. So with that we have this Rostow's growth of development or economic growth, and then even we have more further development theories, big push theory maybe. So likewise we have this different theories. They are from this mainstream, right? So then what we'll do today is, before moving to mainstream, we'll see this heterodox stream. So heterodox means this is not the mainstream. So this will criticize what is going on in the mainstream, right? So if the mainstream is orthodox, so this is heterodox because this is not orthodox, right? So then, so when it comes to heterodox perspective, so we have one key pillar, a person who will never forget. Who is that? Karl Marx. Now, So we know now when it's come to Karl Marx, it was about 80s, 1880 towards 1883, right? So then, however, this ideology made significant impact into heterodox perspective, looking into things, right, and analyzing things and criticizing things. So now that is what we will focus. So here, of course, we will not discuss about Marxist ideology. Rather, we'll go for more updated versions. However, now this is where we have this heterodox perspective in action. So one of the individuals who embarked this concept, right? So then we can refer his publications like the Communist Manifesto and even Das Kapital. So now we know he's a philosopher, economist, and his ideologies, his ideas, his views says a lot about fundamental errors we have in society, in economy or in decision-making process, kind of, right? And then while bridging to Karl Marx, now today's discussion thoroughly deal with this. He is Slavoj Zizek, right? We can call Zizek or Zizek. Now, he is one of modern philosophers, globally recognized modern philosopher. And now, so he wrote a book which called Living in End Times, right? Living in the End Times. And now what we are going to do is to go through this book and his analysis and to see how we could observe heterodox perspective of development, growth, and development prospects in general, right? And then this review is a global review, so this may not focus Sri Lanka, rather, this book focuses one of South Asian country, of course. So anyhow, this global review will support us, will provide us a backup to think of Sri Lankan crisis from heterodox lenses, right? So that is what we will try to observe throughout this session today. Then now, when it comes to Zizek, now his concern is a question, of course, right? Are we living in the end times? Right. Now, when it comes to, I think 2012, there was a discussion about end time. No, it's a different end time. What was that end time? Could you remember? 2012, there was a discussion about end time. No, what is that?
Is it world end time?
Yeah. That by that time we discussed about world end. It was like the world will destroy. Everything will vanish, kind of. Everything will get burned, kind of idea was there. But however, it was not happen. But there was some feelings and all. Then referring to that, isn't it? But now this end is not that. However, even this try to say living in end times, right? Now I think you all, because in your first discussion class, I asked your madam to play this video, right? And then now I am going through this analysis or review while assuming that even you watched that video, okay? Because then it will be added advantage for you even to recognize what I am trying to say here, because that video is a nice summary for the work done by Slavoj Zizek when it's called his book, and the way he analyzed that facts, of course, from the essence he wrote in his book, Living in the End Times. Right. Then basically he questioning the fundamentalism, right? He's questioning the fundamentalism of our policies or our beliefs or our actions, right? And then he is asking, oh, because of this, seems like we are living in times of a particular system, right? And now, if I emphasize more about Zizek, he's a Slovenian philosopher. His origination is he's a Slovenian, and even we could call him a philosopher as well as a psychoanalyst, right? Now, when it comes to his profession, he's a professor, right? So he's a professor at the European Graduate School, international director of even Birkbeck Institute for Humanities from Birkbeck College, London. And also he is a senior researcher at the Institute of Sociology, University of Ljubljana, Slovenia, right? So now see, he's a package of research, teaching and experience across some popular universities in the world. So then even he's one of modern philosopher, and even he is one of very popular modern philosophers who is go through this heterodox perspective, right? Then now when it comes to his publications, so he got more than 50 publications. I will say publication in books even. Now what we'll refer today is this living in the end times. Also he got more other books, like you see some examples given here. Now if someone interested of more of his work, so you can feel free to go and search what he did and what he's doing, right? Now so now today we'll focus into this living in the end times, that book, that material, and we'll try to discuss more about this heterodox perspective of global matters, or the development as a global concept, right? Now when it comes to that video, I think even you saw something saying first, welcome to the real world. Will you remember? That's how that video starts. That video, if you will remember, it's a kind of individual review session that Zizek sit and around him there were some videos playing, right? Some clips, which these clips shows different situations, interviews, and so on. And the reference to that videos play, he emphasized his ideology, his idea, his point of view on the things shown in the videos. So he said, I really like the way you bombard these videos, and so that's a nice thing, as he said. However, now why I use the term welcome to the real world here, because now I have another simple video that will again remind us. So of course, what is the real world we are living now? And then we'll see how to merge or how to discuss the context written by Zizek and even reviewed by Zizek in this video as well as in this book, right? So then first let me play another video, and then we'll back into the discussion.
Le fleuve. Le fleuve. Dan kan je het om tagar free. Agar flu. Oh, je. Nu, wij hebben de vuil. Bon, bon. Fica flu. Flu. Ja. Hola! Hola, felle! Hola, felle! Oh! Je
C'est qui, Poupa?
Ce sont les amis dont je vous ai parlé.
On pourrait les inviter à dîner tout de même.
Ouais, c'est vrai qu'ils m'ont l'air bien affamés.
Okay, so now I will not, yes, it's a cartoon time. Anyhow, so hope you all enjoyed. And now, so what do you think about that cartoon? Any ideas? So now I am not going to frame to interpret this in my own way, rather I will open up it, because now once we go through the discussion, maybe you will link it with this video, or you may think, yeah, so that may be like that, and so on, so on. So anyhow, now so far maybe you have some view on this video, right? And then we'll see now what exactly is Isaac trying to say and so how he would interpret the development or growth or the plans in an economy, right? Now, with that, let me move forward. And now, when it comes to Zizek, and his the so-called book Living in the End Times, and even when it comes to his the particular interview, the presentation as a summary of his book, so he emphasized 4 important factors. So even in his whole book, he is emphasizing 4 important factors while thinking of or while referring to politico-economic realities of our time. Now here, when it's called his book, so the politico-economic realities of our time, so which was about 2010, basically, right? So because he sees more analysis up to 2010 and 11. So then anyhow, so then that's how he focused, and then he got, as I said, 4 key issues around 2010, right? And one is the economic crisis. And then what is this economic crisis? What was this economic crisis? Can someone say? I think you watched the video as well. So what was the crisis he was discussing about? It's not Venezuelan crisis, not Sri Lankan crisis. It's about another crisis. Yes. Now earlier, within our previous session also, I did highlight this crisis when we discuss about systems theory and dependency theory as well. It's about the financial crisis which was happened in the United States, right? So it's about 2007-8 and that crisis. So that's one of fundamental case studies he used. I mean, one of fundamental scenarios, situations he used for his review, right? And then the next thing is about environment. Even he reviewed, he critically analyzed the environment and how things going up with it, right? And then the next one is about Afghanistan. I mentioned that, so in his book he mentioned one South Asian country, which is Afghanistan, right? So then especially it was about the Afghan war, right? And some factors behind that with a critical analysis on it. And then the next thing is about democracy, and he said it end of democracy, right? That's the 4th factor which he used in this analysis, right? Then when it's come to his book, especially, we have 4 important components. The one is about the US economic crisis, and then about environment, and then the Afghan war, and then end of, or it's about in general about the democracy, right? And then now our plan to discuss these 4 scenarios, right? And to see how then we could analyze these scenarios, right? Now it's high time for you to remind what you watched in that video within your discussion class as well. Okay. Now first we'll start with the crisis in the US. So even according to Zizek, it's about capitalism, a failure in capitalism, because US one of key hegemonies, you know, we discussed that's the global hegemony so far, and then it's a failure in the hegemony, it's a failure in the global hegemony, right? And then now this is a nice statement from Zizek. So what it says, ever since things have been run by the big government, right? So then now, when it's on the US, for example, it is a big government, right? The government got a lot of power, right? Now what it say, ever since things have been run by the big government, but behind that governing style is big business, right? So then it's referred to not only the government, even governing style. And it says this governing style is the business, it's a big business, right? So, you know, when it's come to different countries, different governments got different governing styles. Even in a particular country, different parties got different governing style. Right? And then how this governing style will impact decision making. This is really important. And now, even now, his focus, his analysis, even try to emphasize that these scenarios he highlighted in 2010 is kind of realization of Karl Marx's prediction about capitalism. Right. So what he is saying, this is the final phase of capitalism. That this is going to be the end of capitalism kind of idea. So, but he is not just saying it. So he is trying to emphasize that factor with a lot of features, a lot of evidences. That's the research caliber, analytical caliber he got, right? And then now, even this seems nice. Now see what is this? Money changers are stealing anything that isn't there and recapitalizing all the failing CEOs and their ideas. Now simply what this try to say something even, you know, which we saw in Sri Lankan context, in Venezuelan context, or any country which faces a crisis. What is that? Now this decision makers who are mostly motivated through different monetary concerns will eventually grab things, grab wellness, grab power, grab everything, right? But once they identify things are in a failure, when things failing, and then they are trying to restructure, but not themselves or not their actions, rather they are restructured as few portions of the system. Like now here it says CEO or the ideas of them. So it's not the core that we touch, but that is where we will touch, right? So then these things or these points try to emphasize that now when it comes to economic development, when it comes to development policy making, right? When it comes to decision making referent to development of a country, so it's about first dealing with the core of the problems, right? It's not just putting some icing into some small situation happen in the corner of the problem. No. So we have to go to the core of the problem and then we have to deal with the problem, right? So this is what even, this is what basically heterodox thinkers, heterodox researchers try to say. We have to deal with the core of the problem. Otherwise, we'll never see a solution, right? Now, even he tried to say a few facts like this as well. What is this? You will see. Since businesses can't force people to buy, it has the US military to do it for them. Right? Now, even this says about, you know, this the role playing by military in the United States. So how militarism uses as a hegemonic power for the countries like militarism, and even then it's a kind of combination between consumerism and militarism, right? Even there's a nice term called consumer fetishism. Now, I will discuss this later in detail in another session. It's a really interesting one, this consumer fetishism, right? This consumer fetishism happens because of militarism of consumerism in a way, right? Maybe you hear these terms first time in your life, but you can search these things, right? Now, since so our context or our education system in Sri Lanka is not that much into heterodox perspective, but even it's better we learn all perspectives. Then only discourse, then only new knowledge creation will further encourage. Otherwise, if you blank about one area, so then if you think only about one area, then I will call them the horses with blinkers, right? So we have blinkers and we are just focused only one area, and we think that's everything. But rather we have to be someone who got bird's eye view, right? So we have to look from the top, and we could see all ideas, we could see all arguments, we could read them, and then we'll see, oh, so what are the failures with these ideologies? perspectives, what are the failures that ideology's perspective, and then what will be the better. That will make you a real researcher, real concept creator, real policy maker, real decision maker, even in your organization, right? So of course, that is one of important objectives that we should reach out of our university education system. Hopefully, because of that, so even try to see these perspectives also, try to read about them as well, right? And now because of this mandate used by different governments, even with this militarism, so sometimes then people used to go for their consumption without choices. For example, now what is trying to say? Now think of genetically modified organs. So nowadays we have a lot of genetically modified foods, for example, isn't it? Right? So then you may consume that because even you may feel that's relatively cheap. Consumerism works there, and even you may feel that's the option we have, right? Like for Sri Lanka now, maybe in future or soon, maybe we have only one option when it comes to rice, maybe only the Indian rice we import if we don't have production in Sri Lanka, right? So likewise, if it's the only option even, so then you may go for that. And then as a remedy for that, now if you get any health consequences because of this genetically modified foods, and then the solution was what? Solution is to pay for healthcare. Then go to the hospital and pay for that. Right now in the US, because this is a serious concern, because in the US, as we discussed earlier last week, even healthcare is one of highly costly matter, right? So you have to pay a lot for healthcare, and then now you may eat genetically modified food, and then the solution provided from the system as you may have to go and get treat from the healthcare. So we are both will finally suppressed and marginalized people, consumers, right? And now according to CISAC, in general, this is what the latter stage of capitalism, right? So this is how it's going towards its end. And then now when it comes to this ideology, this analysis rather ideology from CISAC, he go through that 4 factors as I said, right? We have 4 areas. And then first the economic crisis in the United States. And if you could remember, so when it comes to that video, right? So we had different interviews with different people about the US economic crisis, right? So here you could see one idea which you can observe from that video. It's from Jim Rogers. He was an investor who made a lot of money into the American market, right? And even he faced this US crisis during that time. So what he is saying, so if I quote from that video, you could see here as well: artificial prosperity or an artificial decline in an economy due to the government interference. So now then this according to him, this is an artificial decline in the economy according to because of the government interference, right? This crisis. And therefore, major reason for crisis is this intervention in line with communist thinking, not the capitalist. So then he say, now this artificial interference and this decline was because this all also supported with the communist thinking and all. So this kind of idea was there. And then now what CISAC said in reply, so what you can see in highlight in bold below. So this is a simple summary of how he analyzed this statement. This is the crisis of liberal capitalism. Now he called this is the crisis of liberal capitalism, right? Now here we are not going to discuss in depth about capitalism now, but if you're interested, you can read now how these heterodox thinkers define capitalism, what means capitalism, or what means liberal capitalism, right? And so he said, not the crisis of state intervention. Right? Now, what he is saying, this is a problem with the system, procedure. It's not a problem with this state intervention. And it caused by capitalist system running out of control. So what he is saying, so this crisis was happened because this capitalist system in the United States running out of the control. Right? Okay. And then, so there was another person, a young banker, and so that banker said something like this. This is not the crisis of capitalism. This is crisis of our values, of our ethics. Right? So what he said, so this crisis reflects the crisis of our values. It reflects the crisis of our ethics. Okay. And then now for this, Zizek replied like this. So this summary here. Global capitalist system pushing us to violate ethical elementary rules. Now, what he is saying, yes, we can observe violation of different, these values and ethical matters. And why this violation happened? Because this mismanagement or whatever happened in this capital system, that pushes us towards that. And even he is saying it's not psychology or personal corruption about the person. Rather, what he is saying, when one do something in radical way, others will against him due to capitalist push. So then what he is trying to say is now, so individuals will act differently. Right? Now, for example, maybe a banker attempt to invest in a different way. But now, if this happens, and then the system, if this is not fit with the system will refuse that. Right? So that is what he is saying. And also there are, so we just had a discussion about a book called Misfit Economy. So in that book, even it says about some innovative, say like entrepreneurial outcomes, but they were bit out of this comfort zone of the system. They came out of different angles. Like for example, so one of their business was it's a security system, a security service. But how this security service happened? Because in Somalian countries there was this pirate problem, and then initially this was initiated as a legal security service. I mean, it's informal, rather illegal, I would say. Informal security service, which people get together and form to defend these pirates, Somali pirates, right? And then there was no law to firm that, but later this become an official security service kind of. So likewise, when things happen out of the most comfort zones. So, but when even ideas, policies came out the comfort zone, then usually what he says, the system will refuse that. Right? And then the third person, a person whose decisions, of course, help the crash in Wall Street. So he was a person whose decisions support this financial crisis in the United States, right? And now what he's saying, money is like a drug. It's like taking a drug. If somebody hands you $1 million check, you feel good, and it's likely very similar to a drug and like to maintain that feeling. Now what is it? So this money is similar to a drug. So you will be addicted to that. So when you get a lot of money, so you will be like thinking that's what you need and you will do anything, kind of, right? Now then Zizek replied like this, you could see below. Let's not approach capitalism as a psychological problem. What he said, no, we could not interpret this as a psychological problem, right? This happened due to attitudes generated by the social objective system. What he said, this is not a psychological problem. This is because of the attitude creates to the system we are having, the social system we are having. Right. Now he's referring to some examples like now he's asking. So he was asking, if you could remember in the video, even you can see it. Now why there's a now even what he said, even our laugh, our right to laugh also framed. Now here I could remember one book which called 1981. It's a novel. I don't know whether you read it. Do you have anyone who read 1981? If I'm reading 1981 or 87, it's 81, right? Do you have anyone who read it? So we have a Sinhala version of that book in Sri Lanka. Maybe even the Tamil version is there. Is it 1987? 81 or 87? I think 81. Do you have anyone who read it?
No, sir.
Okay. So that book is a novel, but that novel will showcase. It says, that book even give us a clear idea about CCTV system. For example, so it's not about CCTV system, but it says the government will look into people from everywhere, so they can see what people doing from everywhere, kind of, and then they do a moral control of all individuals, all citizens. And now what here he is trying to say. Now, for example, now you may even experience TV shows, right? So when there's a joke in the TV show, so now you are not laughing, but there's a background sound which is laughing, right? It's laughing for you. Now you maybe not feel like I don't need to laugh. Maybe you may feel like it's an average joke, like I'm not laughing, kind of. But now background, there's a laugh, kind of, isn't it? And then even the clap also there sometimes in some TV shows you can see. So you may not thinking of cheering it, but now in the background there's a clap. So what is it? It's a kind of alienation of your behavior, right? Now, so even that's nudging you to do that, though you think that's not needed, but then the next time you may think, why there's a background sound for laughing, because that will alienate that ideology towards you. You have to laugh for that, kind of, right? So that is what he's trying to say here. He's saying this is not a psychological problem, but rather it's a system embedded objective system, and that's what create this things like money, this greediness towards money, likewise. Right? And even further, he's saying about charities. What he said is, charity is a capitalist tool, right? It's like a medicine to the evil it causes. Now, so what he is saying is, because of capitalism, there are a lot of consequences. Like, for example, inequality. Now, even in Sri Lanka, we have this problem seriously. We have poor people. Now think of this crisis, right? So now because of crisis, who suffers a lot? So people who are, so the poor people, so people who are just consuming only 6% of the total wealth in the country. So they suffers a lot. That just the 10% who consume more than 80% of Sri Lankan production will not suffer. That's something created to the system, what he's saying. And then now as a remedy, as a medicine, then there we have welfare, charity. So he's asking, so why we have charity? If there's no inequality, but do we need charity if we don't have serious inequality in the economy? So that is what he is questioning here. And then the next situation is with Dr. Mark Faber, right? So he was an investor on a monthly newspaper which is called the Gloom, Boom and Doom Report, right? Now what he said, something like this. Now maybe you could remember these things, even you can go back to this video, you can search this video and you can go back and see it again as well. So today I will, of course, after when I'm uploading this lecture, even I will upload that video as well later, you can go through. Now what he said, the experiment of the central bank and the fiscal packages active by Western governments were literally failed. Right? Interest payment of the government debt will dramatically go up. 50% of the tax revenue will eventually used to pay the interest on the government debt. Then it causes hyperinflation and it's bad for average household. Real income goes down. Now he is trying to interpret, this problem most technical way, emphasizing the problem with the policies, right? And then now how now CZAC responds this. He says, what he says is, this is not a matter of economic analysis. Now here, so now we could see now here, even CZAC, what he's trying to do, he's trying to say this is a system problem, right? What he say, it's a matter of system, it's a problem with the system, right? He says it's built on trust. So for example, he says now, for example, Joseph Stiglitz, even the theoretical foundations of economic giants, even if economic sense of problematic, they will work because of basic trust, kind of fear. Now here, why he focused Joseph Stiglitz? Joseph Stiglitz was a good economist and who worked for US government, and then later he resigned and he left it with some lot of bad experience he got, and later he wrote a book, and he said he shared his experiences, and he was like saying, now I was there like with a kind of fear to the system, but I felt like things are not going well, but I support them though I feel this is not working, kind of. So then that is what he's trying to emphasize, even this CZAC here, right? So if we try to analyze this through the more systematic approach, rather it's not because of that, it's because of the whole value system generated through the process or the whole system we are embedded, right? So that's the problem. It's not about the economic analysis, rather it's the system analysis. It's a system embed problem. That is what he said. And then there are some facts about then economic crisis related view of CZAC in his book. Okay, so do you have anything to add? Do you have any views? Do you have any perspectives or more opinions about this kind of ideologies? Okay, so then next he focused environmental and ecological crisis. Okay, now when it comes to this analysis, he even does that from the video even you may see this focus, especially the problems with China. Now in that video even it asks, now okay CZAC, now you will say it's a problem with the system, it's a problem with capitalism. But then think of China, because China was is considered as one of communist countries, right? And then even that video it asks, okay, so then see this, it show a lot of environmental pollution problems in China, and then say, now what do you think about this? Now, is this not a problem then, though this is a communist country? So this kind of thing was there, and then. So eventually, then this part, of course, focus Chinese ecological problems in his analysis, and now here, especially he mentioned about another thing. That's about how he says is from throughout this perspective, how he even analyzes it is like capitalism with Asian values. Right. Now then it says, now even capitalism got different versions now. Right. Now capitalism got a version with Asian values. And then now in general, this China considered as a country where it got capitalist body with a communist head. Right. So that is how this heterodox thinkers try to interpret Chinese economy, Chinese development process. So China got a communist head, but with a huge capitalist body. Right. So then, so what they are saying is, it's not really communism. It's not really communist system. Rather, it's a just show up that is communist, but everything happened now capitalist kind of. Right. And then now even in this analysis, he's trying to focus that corner, saying that something new emerging in Asia and expanding gradually around the world, that is capitalism. It mostly developed with authoritarian political structure. So then what he says, now, for example, in China, this version is more authoritarian. And even he is referring to few projects in China, like Chinese Dragonite project. So these kind of projects create a lot of ecological damages, right? And even he says this dam, which happened through this Dragonite project, which made a huge earthquake in central China, and even he referred that as the first man-made earthquake. Right. Now see the seriousness of this analysis. Okay. And even he is referring to oil problem. So he is referring this as dynamic nature of ecological crisis. So then this continuous excavation of petroleum resources and how that will create problems and all. Right. So then now referring to these things, he is trying to say that because of the system, the system, the way it works, the policies we create, the plans we create. So saying maybe development, saying maybe economic growth, but everything we create happens because of the way system provides guidelines, and that generate this kind of problem, right? And then the third part is about this Afghanistan problem, right? Now referring to this Afghanistan problem, he is trying to emphasize security crisis. Right? So first, economic crisis. Second, ecological crisis with China and its environment pollution. And third, with this Afghan war, Afghanistan situation, he is trying to emphasize the security crisis. Right? Now there, some statements was there. So first, according to this Lafter Brahim, who was a former UN diplomat in Afghanistan. So he said, Americans are looking for revenge from Al-Qaeda, and they had no interest in Afghanistan. So what he was saying is, now this was about Al-Qaeda was a US army, that time. So then America tried to get revenge because why? What's the reason? Do you know what's the reason? Why he was saying that America is trying to get the revenge from Al-Qaeda and nothing else? What's the why there should be revenge? What's the reason behind trying for revenge from Al-Qaeda? Do you know why? Any idea? So it's just a popular thing. So you could remember the terrorist attack which was happened to World Trade Center in the United States, New York. So that was basically the incident, and then because of that, US was following Al-Qaeda. So then they recognized that they were like established in Afghanistan, and that's what. So then even this person saying that's why they are even, and they saying it's not about Afghanistan as a country, rather it's about Al-Qaeda. So that's what he said. And then now what here this CISAC say, Afghanistan reviewed today one of ultimate fundamentalist country. Right. So now, even when you come to Afghanistan, now we say, oh, we are a country with real problems. Always bombarding, always war. People are like highly extremism and so on kind of things we'll think of now. Now, what he say? But 40 years ago, the same country was the most tolerant and secular country within all Muslim Middle East states with a strong local communist party. Through the process of getting caught into international politics, it becomes fundamental. Now, what he's saying earlier, the history of Afghanistan was very nice. That is what he was saying. And there was very good communist ruling system, that's what he was saying. Anyhow, what he was saying is there was very good time for Afghanistan earlier, but now later, because with this internationalization, international politics, and this whatever political jargons and matters later, this country became a fundamental problematic country. And then even says America chose a small defense country. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are allies and they cannot attack. Now see, now what he's saying is, now America, maybe they need to attack Al Qaeda, but then see what the ruthless thing they did. So they use this small country, which is easy for them, and no matter whether it will destroy it, because that's better than going through Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. So now it says, so once hegemony need to maintain power, then they will, flatten other small sovereign nations, and they will go for their target. Right. So that's what now even now we have discussions about other versions of this now. When it's called Sri Lanka, we have discussions about this maritime strategy, right? Chinese maritime strategy and Sri Lanka. And then even now we have discussed about why China is supporting us a lot to this debt and all. And so now even for job per se, even you will discuss now, you will say, so these all will become Chinese soon. This will be even be Chinese now. So this part of the country will be Chinese colony soon, likewise. So the same ideology is there, right? The hegemonic power maintenance and so achieving small countries as cat-cow states. So now, for example, so myself and Dr. Kalpar, we did a study called Chinese flying high beneath the wings of Red Dragon. That's about this Chinese hegemony, and then how China used Sri Lanka as a cat-cow state. That's what we wrote. We did analyze, and there we discussed now how China. Now we know what means cat-cow state. We know what means cat-cow state. It means, so we have the Sinhalese statement of saying that Balalung lava kosata bhavana. So that's the idea. So cat-cow means, so then Sri Lanka has one cat-cow that they can use to deal with India, especially the next the rising hegemony in Asian region. So these kind of things there, right? And now then when it's come to US situation, then there was a question from that media side asking CISAC, okay, so then so what we can do then? Should we leave Afghanistan? Then CISAC say, solution is not to simply quickly leave Afghanistan. So now we screw up the situation in Afghanistan, and then leave is not what we need. So anyhow, now we know almost US left the Afghanistan, and then what happened thereafter, right? So now CISAC got it in 2010. However, 10-11. However, now we know what was happened to Afghanistan. So US left, and then now they were in another problem. They were in another struggle, right? And then the next part, the fourth part of his analysis, it's about end of liberal democracy. It says end of liberal democracy, right? Now, what means democracy? Do you have any idea? According to you, what means democracy? Just say what's your view on democracy? Feel free to say.
Hello, sir.
Yes. So, Mithusan, so according to you, what means democracy for you?
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, of course. I can hear you.
Yeah, I face the internet issue. The democracy in the sense how the government or the country give the freedom for people to make the decisions, and the freedom towards the people, no, most of the time.
Okay, freedom. Right. Now, earlier we had a term called laissez-faire. Do you remember? Now, when it's come to especially neoclassical economics, and even before, we use the term laissez-faire. So then, what's the difference between laissez-faire and democracy? Now, what means laissez-faire? Can you remember? No, it's called economics. We call this. No, we have a term called laissez-faire. We call laissez-faire economic system. Even we used to say Adam Smith even proposed a laissez-faire version of economic system. So then we know what's Adam Smith version. So then when it's called Adam Smith version, it's about minimum role played by the government, right? And let supply and demand to play their natural role. So now then what means laissez-faire there? So laissez-faire means even okay, let it go free and minimize the impact from government, right? And then democracy. So democracy may have that notion, but the democracy have more thorough, expanded ideology, right? Now, according to Zizek, what he said, 1989, liberal democracy went global. Right? Now, so I would encourage you to read and search more about what means liberal democracy, right? So later just search and see what means liberal democracy. Now even there was a popular statement which made by Francis Fukuyama. He said, saying that, so this is the end of history. So I will again encourage you to read more about, search more about this, the statement made by Francis Fukuyama and see what means this, the end of history. Because these things are important. So these matters are important. So to have a nice analysis on what they are trying to say, heterodox thinkers trying to say about the democracy and the liberal democracy, right? And then even Zizek says, things seem relatively well, but there is very dark cloud in the horizon, right? So then Sade say, if you think of, so relatively with the history, this democracy have some good phase, but still that seems not clear. There seems like problems coming up, right? And now here there's a statement. What we can see there. This is a great challenge for Western democracies, right? Can democracy tackle hard issues they need to be tackled? If we don't, then it's a delegitимate of democracy. Already it is doing in some place, such as declining voters, or declining public participation, or declining support for mainstream political parties. Now what it says is like this. Now, so this given by American funder for politicians, right? So what they are saying, so we can see a kind of gradual decline in liberal democracy, and then it seems that doing some damage towards the usual the routine of the system we are having in US that can decline voters, decline participation, decline the support. So because now this is highly private. I mean, you see, now it's private idea because they are thinking of active participation in political matters. Because when they have more voters and they have more participation, when they have more parties, then that's in a way what they think. Once they have more of this thing, that is democracy, right? That will enhance democracy, that will ensure democracy. But now you can read it further, right? Okay. You can read it further and you can see. Now, now here, what then Zizek said as a reply is this: democracy, the element of liberal capitalism, is in more and more crisis. The dilemma behind what Fukuyama said is, what he said is at the end of history, a rise of liberal democratic capitalism is remain as only the realistic option. Nobody doesn't question of a public life without state mechanism. Within the system, they think about more tolerant and social justice. This is enough. Is this enough? Right. So what he's trying to say is, now when it comes to liberal democracy, that's again a built system, a built mechanism. Right. So this so-called liberal democracy even another way of thinking. Right. Right. And also what he's trying to say, so then there should be mechanism according to liberal democracy to influence or to deal with public life and their whatever voting power, public participation, and so on, so on. Right. However, now he was asking like, is that exactly the social justice? Is it enough to say that this social justice is there when democracy is there? And also there's another statement, which is a simple statement by right wing, which says left wing partners are narrow-minded and don't know what to do. Now this left wing, right wing, you know this about them, the capitalist socialist view. And then Zizek said a concept from socialist, social mobilization, is integrated into the right wing without links. They concern only popularity, and indeed was dangerous. The basic formula of current politics is popularity, and disconnect occur with right-wing populism. Now, so here then what Zizek said, so when it comes to this capitalist idea with this democratic concern, social democracy, or capitalist idea with this liberal democracy especially. So what he's saying, they are highly populist based. Now, maybe you could remember, I think I earlier in another course, maybe in public sector management, but I didn't do public sector management with you, no? We discussed about populism. Even we discussed about populism, even when it's come to industrial economics, I don't know, to some extent, right? To a simple extent. So then, so when it's come to decision making in a country, so for example, policies, any development prospects or whatever, so when it's come to such decision making, policy preparation, government have two options, right? So we can say simply a government have two options. One is populism and the other one is hard choices. But now when it comes to this usual mechanism system we are having, this the party politics, voting system we are having, there they are highly concerned on populism. Now think of Sri Lankan matter. That's what happened to Sri Lanka even now. Now if we analyze the crisis, the long-term problem, even one was we didn't got a long-term policy. We didn't had a long-term policy. Right? Always each 5 years, we are changing our policies. We are changing our objectives, plans, targets, or whatever. Our economic targets, objectives, policies, all always changing once we have new political party. And then everything change, and then later again, once we have another political party after another 5 years, again things change. So because why is everything changing? Because of populism. right? So the new political party needs to say, okay, now we are going to change everything. Now we are going to be the best for you, and see, we are doing this and this. So this is what? That's about populism. Being popular among people rather doing a good thing for the country or the economy, right? So this damage the system itself. That is what he's saying. So this populism damaged the capitalist system itself. That's what he's saying, right? And even now we know, once we within our discussion, even this populism damaged the economy itself. So now Sri Lanka will be a very good example for that, right? So populism damaged our system itself, our economy itself. Now we are suffering with this economic crisis. We are suffering without options to buy even our necessary foods or whatever security now, because we are running out of money. Our purchasing power declined rapidly over time, right? So now see, this is how he looked into problems. He looked into situations, right? And so this populism seems like a problem, rather going for hard choices for a lot of such the role players in this liberal democratic nature, right? And then further he highlight the situations in Italy. So because when it comes to Italy, it was a country where they use this populism and this popular democracy earlier, and now, so even when it comes to Sri Lanka, India, likewise in the South Asian countries, we can see this, of course. So here we have this charismatic leadership characteristics, and the populism seems like a very important thing for these people, right? So anyhow, even so he was referring to Italy, and then even in that video you may see how they use different, this populism just to promote their will and their ideas and all. And now even later, now we have another question of, then now according to CISAC, now what his ideology is saying, is it about then, okay, so then this capitalist system going to be end soon, and then do we need to then stick to communism? Now is this what we are going to do here, or what we are going to gain here? I think here the most important thing should be, we are not required to now go for another system. Now if we think now capitalist system failing, so that not mean that all states should form under socialist way, right? So now that is what he said, finally referring. So what he say, need a new communism, need a new version, new system, maybe that is what he is saying. So then and then this system should be intervene or should be interact with political, economic, social and demographic disciplines. So then it should be a kind of new system or new way of doing things, while getting all better approaches, better techniques, and that could enhance improvements of countries. That will decline so-called inequality in countries or economies. That will improve our growth. That will finally lift up with the proper development process. So this is what then CISAC try to emphasize, right? And then it's really important then, right? So now here is not about, even at the end of this book, even you could get that idea. This is not about replacing or criticizing one system and then replacing another system. That is totally out of practical senses. Rather, this is about generation of more proper, new practice while neglecting all failures. But this not be a plaster for the existing system or existing practice. Rather, this will be new origin while having all best practices, right? Even CISAC try to say that, so this particular new communism should be there, rather just applying the same old school socialist approach as well, right? And then so now even this video finally will of course ask that question, right? Which kind of end we need here? So then now if we are now according to Zizek, so if it is end of capitalism, and then now if we are going to replace another system, so then what will happen? Is that we need or what we need? So I will just play this video and then we'll move forward. So Okay, so keep it in your mind. So that is not the end we need, right? So then it's open for you to think. So then what exactly the end needed? Even we may have different perspectives, but then the end should be productive. It should be more creative. It should be more efficient than previous whatever, right? And it's not a disaster at the end. And with that, I would end the context that we could discuss today. And then you, as usual, so we have this Q&A, so where you can feel free to express your ideas or even to ask questions.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Yes, Midhu sir.
Sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sir, I have one concern. I mean, sir, can you please, upload any related documents for the session? Then we can just go through it, because we cannot read whole book, no, sir. Then if you have just reading and all, we can also actively engage.
You mean now, for example, now this Living in End Times book?
Yeah, this one, or for the future session, and also if we just add something to read,
okay,
then we
right,
can
sure.
read and actually engage.
Okay, so it's a good suggestion. You mean that now the particular chapter may be from a book, if I'm referring that, so then I will upload it before the session, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's better
Okay.
now.
Yeah. That's better. So I will do that for sure. So I will upload materials that will, even though I will not even now, since I almost upload this book into Moodle, then I will say these are the page numbers, or this is the chapter I will focus for next session, kind of. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thanks.
Or even if you have new material, I will of course upload that before the lecture. Anything else? Now, even what I did today is an example for revealing a documentary as well, because now this video you maybe watched earlier in your discussion class, in your first discussion class, and then now did kind of review for that also, right? So then even now tomorrow we'll meet two of you with two reviews, right, on two documentaries. And so I just did the lengthy review today. So then, because there's a 2-hour lecture, rather you could use 20 minutes review while using essence of the documentary you could see, right? And now then for next week, so we could prepare for another couple of discussion leaders, and then now again it's going to be a critical review on two statements this time. Now what you have to do, now I will show you these two statements soon. So then while referring to that statements, you have to analyze, I mean you have to critically review these two statements referring to the ongoing economic crisis in Sri Lanka. Then now, for example, this is one statement, right? So this is going to be review 1, which will perform by MG 17005, right? If I'm correct, he or she is the next person who need to do by the next week according to the registration number order. So then MG 17005 will do a review for this statement. Then it's a kind of this statement follow up with different things. So it's not just saying what is this statement and just saying few words is not the idea. So then you have to first read this statement, and you have to see what is there, and then you have to use different data, maybe different sources, maybe from different books, different papers, different videos. So then you will use them all. Even you can get information from the session we had today also, and then having them all collectively, you are going to review this statement while referring to Sri Lankan economic crisis as well. It means you will then think about Sri Lankan economic crisis. You will get information from crisis even to evaluate this statement, right? So then this is the first statement. for the first review, which was made by Friedrich Engels, and then this is the second statement. The second statement, then this is for MG 17043, if I'm correct about the order, and then so he or she need to review on this statement made by Antonio Gramsci, and then so you have to go through this statement and you have to read it, and then you have to do your analysis again while referring to Sri Lankan economic crisis. Okay. So if you have any questions about this today, you can ask even now. So I will upload this material into Moodle Zoom where you can get these two statements and you can follow up that. And then I think next, I don't know when you are going to meet again, maybe next Friday. Is that the usual time now for discussion?
I think we haven't fixed it based on
Okay.
situation.
Okay. So anyhow, for the next week, so this is going to be the class leadership, right? So what I need to say, don't wait till last couple of days, because these things are not that easy, right? I hope now our document reviewers are now ready and working on it, which we are going to have tomorrow. And even this, you better start now, and then you can freely go through this content and get ready for your discussion leaderships. Right. So with that, I will wind up the session today. And thank you very much for attending the session. And anyhow, as I said earlier, so this participation also is very important. Since so we are having these 6 to 8 sessions for you especially, that's why we are staying here and doing these sessions. So please make sure to attend sessions, right? So though I will put the recording. Okay, so with that, good night, and hope to see you all with the discussion class tomorrow, and even with the next session next Thursday. Thank you.